Hi, my name is Mary Pagano, and I'm the CEO for Hera Media Group. And I'm here to interview Deborah Walliser, and you're going to love what she's up to. I mean, she's a real rock star. So Deborah's the CEO of Got Produce Brands, and she's doing some amazing work in Namibia and now all over the world. So I'm actually going to let her tell you a little bit about her background and her company before I get started. So Deborah, welcome and thanks for coming today. So tell us about you.
Thanks, Mary. I'm always excited to tell the story. I think that the story is kind of the genesis of what makes innovation happen. And that's how Got Produce got started. I had an idea one day that we needed to be better in our food production. Just looking out the window going, oh my gosh, what we're doing is really inefficient. We're growing food on this side of the world and we're waiting for it to be shipped on this side of the world, and we can't always get it. And I thought, gosh, there's got to be a better solution. How come nobody's working on solutions, to disrupt, our production system, our production and distribution system? So I thought, you know what, it takes a woman sometimes to say, okay, let me just do it. So there we go. I thought we should move to a distributed production system. And 20 years ago, the term really wasn't used with agriculture. And thank God I didn't really have an ag background. I had a space biology background and plant physiology background.
Space biology. Okay, I love that. All right.
So yeah, I got my start in hydroponics by putting together, it was part of a NASA-funded grant to put together hydroponic systems for the International Space Station, based on certain payloads and other requirements. And I thought, gosh, if we can, grow in space and meet those needs, why the heck are we still doing this inefficient terrestrial, on Earth way of farming? And so that was really the impetus. And again, thank God nobody told me this is the way that farming always will be. I came into it with a new perspective, going, we've got to.
Very cool. Can you tell us, can you backtrack on hydroponics? Because not everybody understands what hydroponics is.
Yeah, sorry, I get carried away in my segment.
Okay.
So hydroponics just means growing plants or food without soil. And contrary to popular belief, there's nothing about soil that plants need. They just need water, they need amino acids, they need oxygen, and they need a support system. And sometimes they get that in soil, not always, sometimes, but sometimes they can get that through other means like hydroponics. So in hydroponics, we use either just water and oxygen and nutrients, or we use some kind of substrate. And the common substrates are, one common one is rock wool, which is rock that they melt and they spin it like cotton candy. So imagine cotton candy made out of rock. And then the plant grows its roots in that. Or else other ones are cocoa coir, which is the outside part of a coconut that they grind up and is used as a substrate. So just anything that is not soil is hydroponic.
So do you need tons of water? Because I know water is also a challenge a bit on the planet. So is that a requirement to be in an area where there's tons and tons of water?
It was thought that you had to only be in specific places on Earth to use hydroponics. But after you've grown on Mars and in space and developed, you realize that, Earth is pretty wide open. But the technology 20 years ago, and I'll say even the technology today in the industry, is very limited to specific areas. We see a lot of greenhouses in kind of North America. We see a lot in Europe, but we don't see greenhouses in the worst places on Earth, in really hot places on Earth. We don't see them in deserts. We don't see them in places with really crappy water. And traditionally it was thought that, it doesn't work. You need what I call whiskey water, that pure, cold, clean, mountain water that they use to make whiskey. That's what hydroponic growers were looking for, because then they basically start with a clean slate and they can add what they need. And I thought that was leaving a large part of the population out of the loop. And I thought, look, if we're going to really revamp our food system, we've got to go and address problems where the biggest populations are. And the biggest populations are in really hot, arid, not perfect climates. I mean, we look at Africa, we look at Australia, we look at India, parts of Asia, parts of, South America, even places we think normally are productive, like in the US. There's still food deserts, throughout the US where you can't produce locally. And in order to make food available everywhere, we had to invent a technology that could actually be adapted to use any water source, any quality, anywhere, and either add to it what it needs, fix it, adjust it, or make the plant like it.
Okay. So earlier you talked about the distributed production model for growing food. So can you explain that?
Yeah, so it's a term we most often hear associated with the energy industry. So in the US, for example, we have multiple power plants, right? We don't have one big power plant for the entire US. We understand that it makes more sense to build smaller power plants across the US and then go out through local distribution lines. So the energy industry uses this term a lot. We just adapted it to the ag industry, meaning one country shouldn't produce the world's needs and then ship it all over because it's not efficient. What we need to do is break down our food production system. So you do a little bit of food production here, you do a little bit of food production here, you do a little bit of food production here, for that local community, and then you can shove it out locally through the local distribution centers and supply chains. So it's a really quick production to end consumer line, and hydroponics is key in making that happen, because not every region has big tracts of land that you can grow all year in. But if you use hydroponics, you can grow anything that community or region or country needs all year, and distribute it quickly, efficiently, without the waste.
Nice.
So it's a game changer. Yeah.
So that means I could get grapefruit here in Lisbon.
You can get anything you want. Yeah, we've really pushed that envelope of what you can grow hydroponically.
Oh, that's very cool. So does it require special technology?
We have developed that technology, like I mentioned, to work with water anywhere. And I didn't finish addressing your earlier question about the amount of water. Sorry, okay. I got into water quality, but the water quantity is also much less. Yeah. One great example is with lettuce. So when you go to the grocery store and you buy a head of lettuce, typically that takes about 50 gallons of water to grow in the field. If you grow it in hydroponics, in a deep water system, it takes about 1 gallon of water to grow. So you've just saved 49 gallons of water by buying a hydroponic lettuce over field grown lettuce. And if you multiply that by the billions of heads of lettuce sold every week across, the globe, it makes going, to hydroponics just for that one crop a real game changer. And then you can do the same thing with tomatoes. You can do the same thing with, we're doing hydroponic lemons. We're doing hydroponic avocados. And the water savings with avocados is exponential. As you know, I mean, everybody wants their avocados, but they're heavy water users. And our reservoirs are drying up, our groundwater is drying up, it's not being replenished. And, the supply chain of avocados has been kind of,
it's like the most amazing fruit ever, right? So it's, I can imagine it's extremely popular.
The green gold is what they call it, but a very small portion of the world kind of controls the avocado production and industry, and so then they get to set the price and tell you how much you get and how much you're going to pay for it. But if you could grow your own avocados anywhere in the world hydroponically, you're released from all that kind of market mandate. You can have your own avocados whenever you want. You don't have to worry about cross-border trade, politics, supply chain disruptions because of pandemics or drought or.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of that, haven't we? Some of the shelves have been empty during
Yeah,
the pandemic.
big time. That was an eye opener, I think, for the industry.
So so you went from space to hydroponics.
It's an easy jump, right?
And how was it getting your first investment? What was that like?
Interesting. My first investment was so easy. I thought, oh my gosh, like, what is the big fuss? Not every investment round that we've raised was actually that easy. So the first greenhouse I decided to build on my own. I had built a number of greenhouses just to do different hydroponic crops for other companies. We had a hydroponic tree contract and built a greenhouse for that. And then I decided, hey, look, I want to do my own in the middle of the Mojave Desert to prove out that you can grow these crops in the desert without using so much water. And so a friend of mine says, hey, Deb, you've been talking about this greenhouse idea. Why don't you come to this Rotary meeting with me? Rotary is this social club. And she said, I need to bring a speaker. And I thought, oh, okay, fine. I'll come talk about greenhouses for 10 minutes. So I got up there and I said, greenhouses and hydroponics are really cool. You can grow in the middle of the desert. Here's some pictures. Everybody clapped. I got a free Rotary mug. I was good with it. And this guy came up to me and he says, is this a real thing? And I said, yeah, hydroponics is a real thing. And he said, and you want to do it here? And I said, yeah. And he said, okay. And he took out his checkbook. He wrote an $800,000 check, and he said, walk across the street to the bank, and we'll open a company.
Really, it was that simple.
Yeah, it was that simple. So I'm given to understand that all investment raises aren't this simple. So
Wow.
We've gone on now to raise in other countries. We're raising for different projects. For when we actually officially launched our Got Produce Global company, we had outside investment, and so all those raises were different. Some easy, some difficult. But now I kind of understand. Like, either you can get somebody in those first couple conversations, or it's just over. So
wow. So any big lessons learned from the experience?
Yeah, just do it. I mean, to borrow from Nike, just do it. Just wake up one day and we all get these little ideas in the back of our head thinking, oh, that would be a cool idea. And then we get on with our day and we don't do it. And I think, of anything, all these little ideas that came to me, oh, I could start a company doing this. I bet I could invent that technology. I could have brushed off, but you just actually have to take the next step and do it. And when I started, I just thought maybe I would design something, quick and simple and be really cool to look at. And now, we're a global company in 20 countries I've worked. We've translated our training material into 5 languages. It's really come a long way, but you have to start with that first step, as they say. Just do it.
The first step. I love it. How long have you been doing this, Deborah?
For over 20 years. Yeah, I started my first company at 19. And now, of course, been through multiple countries, companies and countries. Yeah, so many countries now. It's like I've been an international citizen, I think, for a large part of that 20 years, but it's amazing. Yeah.
Bravo. Congratulations to you. You're feeding the planet. Feels good, doesn't it?
It feels good to do something you like. It feels good to do something you're interested in. And at the end of the day, when somebody else, gets a benefit out of it, then it just cements it. Then it's like, yeah, I did something today.
So do you have some words of advice and encouragement that you could give to other global startups besides the just do it?
Yeah, doing business globally is different than the US. So I'm originally from Santa Cruz, California. Did a lot of Silicon Valley investment fundraising. We had our first company there. Really went into the rest of the world with this American mindset. This is how we do business, and this is how you start a company, and this is how you run a company. And when you get into global business, all that pretty much goes out the window. And so I think the best skill and trait is the adage that I use all the time: win in Rome. So, win in Rome, do as Romans do. You've got to be able to understand, to integrate locally, and to do things that are totally obscene and inefficient, because that's how they're done. So I think it takes a special personality. I'm also a mentor for the Jamaica Development Bank and some other companies. I'm a mentor for Plug and Play in Silicon Valley. And so I get a lot of global companies coming to me to get advice on this global thing. And I see a lot of people that are very straightforward in their, fixed business sense. This is how you do business. This is how you set it up. This is how it should run. And I think you have to leave a little bit that, leave that behind, and embrace really doing something new to be able to make it globally. Yeah.
So you almost have to act locally, but think globally, correct?
Yeah, bring your expertise and attitude, values, ideas, but then also expect execution is going to be different
At every place that you are in the world, because of the cultures in there.
Yeah, execution is going to be different. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you a question. As you know, Hera is building a smart green city for the future of humanity, for all genders, all religions, all nationalities, and in honor of women all over the world. Is there something that you would like to see in Hera City that has never been done anywhere else?
Well, I think what you're doing embodies never been done anywhere else. So that in itself brings a lot of innovation, I think, into it. And that's key. I mean, the project is innovative. I think it will, it must continue to cultivate, that culture of innovation. Of course, I want to see us all eat well. So, have our own food. And even just in my sector, the ag sector, there's so much innovation going on. But you have to keep that creativity alive in all sectors. So I think that would be most important.
Yeah, you're totally right. You're totally right. I think that we've been, building cities and operating from where we are, and not necessarily from where we could be. And and there's, as you know, we have tons of improvement all over the world in all sectors. And I think what's really important, and this is why I love what you're doing, is that we need more female leaders to be able to be front and center and driving some innovation, because they bring a whole different level of emotional intelligence and other skills to the table that in many countries have not given them the opportunity. And I love that you were in Namibia working there with with your company, and love to see you come to Hera City and develop there as well. So I love what you're doing, Deborah. Great work. Kudos to you. And I'm very excited for what you've accomplished and what you're doing. So congratulations on leaving space. I'm sure the space community is not happy about it, but you're making an impact.
Yeah.
And food scarcity is a big issue, and
Right.
a lot of people suffered during the times of when we had COVID and the war crisis. So to be able to get food anywhere on the planet is something that's very important.
Yeah, it'll be a big part of food security and community security. But happy to be a part. Just send me your menu preference, and we'll build a greenhouse to match.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So Deborah, anything that you want to share with the community? Any last words?
I love what you're doing. I love the community. I'll just put this plug out there to all womankind. I think there's an efficiency in how women think, because we're generally multitaskers. We know how to get things done. So if you put a small project or a big project or a hairy audacious project on our goals, a goal on our list, we'll be able to do it. Not to negate the role of our male counterparts, but I think the planning efficiency we'll see shine through. So well done, women. Well done, Mary. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. So for anybody who'd like to catch up with Deborah, her website is www.gotproduce.us. And I will post her bio and her website and contact details in this, in the information for this discussion. So anyway, Deborah, thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.